I think that we want to use design in order to convey emotion. Now, there's one other thing that we didn't quite cover there, but for me, the number one thing is going to be just emotional content. So creating a mood by using the abstract elements in order to convey emotion. Right? So if you have a bunch of little things, right, a bunch of little shapes, whatever they are down here, and up here you have one sitting off, that's going to be different than if you have just two things sitting here all together, right? Here we're going to have this feeling of relationship with these two. Here we have this one, and this one we're going to have the feeling of isolation. So abstract patterns speak directly to the emotional state of the viewer. They inform the emotional state of the viewer. And what you're trying to communicate in that painting should be mirrored with how the design is handled. Okay, so if you're trying to do a piece that's about a feeling of isolation, maybe you want to have one thing that's apart from all the others, right? Maybe you even want a little bit of feeling of motion, that it's drifting apart, because motion is one of the things we'll talk about too. Does it feel like it's coming into that crowd or leaving that crowd? And those are going to give you a little bit different feelings, but they're still a little bit isolated, right? Versus you have this one mass that's put together and it's standing against a background. And both of those could work visually, right? So it's a matter of trying to organize the emotional intention of the painting and sync that up with what your abstract shapes are doing and patterns are doing. Okay.
When you say abstract, why do you use that word?
I'm using that word because it's not the shape of the thing; it's the shape of the shapes.
Okay.
So it's not about a literal interpretation where you have like one person standing, walking away or walking towards a crowd. That's no longer abstract. Now we're into narrative, right? But just getting away from narrative, how is that grouped visually? Is that one separated? Now we could take that same theme. We have a person walking into a crowd or a person walking away from a crowd. And one person might arrange it where you have the crowd here and the person over here. Somebody else might arrange it where the person has his back to us and walking towards the crowd. Has his back to us walking towards the crowd, or his face towards us walking away from the crowd, or the crowd up here and the person back there, and they're all going to have a little bit different feeling. But the one that is sort of two-dimensionally spaced like this is going to have an abstract separation of shape, figure, crowd, right, rather than overlap. So there's more of a sense of unity from an abstract point of view if you overlap that person, right? And there's more of a sense of separation if you move them like this from an abstract point of view. In a narrative point of view, it's the same no matter what you do. So that's why I talk about the abstract with design, as opposed to a literal or narrative interpretation.
So narrative is what's happening in the painting.
It's what's happening in the painting.
Right.
So if we can sync up the design of the piece with the intended emotional content of the narrative, then we have a more powerful emotional content of